All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's time to talk about Hyper Light Breaker. Now, this video game was an SBI video game that some people spoke about, but for the most part, it kind of just came and gone. Nobody was really super concerned with Hyper Light Breaker because it was one of those games that we all knew was going to fail. So nobody really thought about it. But here's the reason why I'm talking about Hyper Light Breaker today, and it's very important, so pay attention. Hyper Light Breaker is not only out in early access, but it has completely betrayed its player base so bad to the point where they are getting destroyed not only in reviews, but there's also people that are just flat out leaving the video game. This game within just a few weeks has gone from 5 to 6,000 players concurrent to pretty much zero. It's an insane story. So let's get into this video, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, again, guys, Hyper Light Breaker, when we first saw this video game, I remember reporting on it, and it's just not my kind of game, right? I just didn't seem very interested in it regardless. And then I found out that SBI was involved, and then I started realizing and looking and seeing when I was watching gameplay that, oh yeah, I could definitely see their influence, even if it's just a little bit. I can see their influence on this particular video game. Now, Hyper Light Breaker apparently is a sequel to a video game that had a pretty decent following, but it looks like even though it had that following, players have abandoned it because they got delivered a completely broken game. So let's get into this video, guys. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. So it says the extraction loot shooter is beautiful and evocative in a very rough shape at the moment. After years of hype and multiple delays, Hyper Light Breaker finally arrived in early access on Steam last month. At last, players were able to dig into this moody mashup of loot, extraction shooter, and roguelike elements, and what they found wasn't great. From its grueling boss fights to haphazard exploration, it is wildly panned. The team behind the co-op game has now released a roadmap for upcoming fixes and new content drops, however, and says that it has no regrets about soft launching the game when it did. Of course, you're not going to have any regrets because they're going to hide behind the shield of early access. They're going to say, well, you bought an early access game. You already knew the game was unfinished. So it gives these developers an excuse to deliver you a product that laughs in your face. Now, you guys are probably wondering, who are watching, just how bad is this game performing? It can't be that bad, right? Oh no, it is. Let's go check out the numbers on SteamDB. And this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. I am not kidding. This game is down to 75 players playing right now at this moment. Now, keep in mind, when it first released on early access, it hit a concurrent number of 5,230, which is not bad for what would be considered, I suppose, an indie game, right? It's not that bad at all. 5,000 players is more than enough to be able to sustain yourself, especially when you consider that that's not all the people who bought the game. That's just the concurrent amount of people who were playing the game. So that means this game sold tens of thousands of copies, and now it's only down to 75 players after just 1 month. And it's not like it's a video game that's just a single player one and done. This is a video game that's supposed to keep you playing for a little while. So to be down to 75 players is pretty damn pathetic. And now if you look up here, the reviews are damn near at a 50%. It's got a 63% rating over on Steam. There is a massive amount of bad reviews in this game, and I can only imagine. Look, nobody's even watching on Twitch. Nobody cares about this game. The game literally died. And this is the reason why people make fun of titles like this, because if you're going to release your game and put it on early access, that is not an excuse to deliver them a product that's going to make them pissed off, because they're still playing this game every day. They're playing it expecting to have something they can actually enjoy every single day. And if it's so broken that you have to put out a roadmap of fixes, I mean, the game clearly needed some time to cook. But anyway, it says there is no amount of time you can spend in isolation that will make the game great. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. This is why they have delays, right? If you're going to delay your video game, you're going to delay it with the understanding that you're trying to make it better, and you're going to try to fix bugs and whatnot. And I understand you can't be perfect, but you should be damn near striving to be so, because again, you got to earn people's respect. You got to earn people's money. And if you're putting out products out there that are so broken that people, when they open their wallet, they're going to feel like they made a mistake. You really want your gamers to have buyer's remorse when they buy your video game? That's got to be the worst feeling ever when you purchase a video game and you realize, oh, I fucked up. You know, it's the worst. You get the best version of a game by maximizing the amount of feedback and iteration loops you can go through, and early access is the way to do that for a title like this. Again, it all seems like just a massive cope in order to release a broken game. With a mixed rating and only 63% positive reviews on Steam at the moment, there's a lot of work to be done, which the studio has signaled in newly announced roadmap. A February 18th update promises a new playable character, more enemies, gear, and combat rebalancing and bug fixes. A similar raft of improvements, including more new content, is scheduled for March. April will be the big update with a content drop called Bury Below that aims to improve onboarding and adds even more enemies and characters. Hyperlight Breaker arrives as a spin-off to Hyperlight Drifter, the atmospheric 2016 2D Zelda-like that won hearts and minds as a Kickstarter pitch before becoming one of the last of a certain generation of retro-inspired indie darlings. So yeah, it is an indie game. That's pretty much obvious. I think anybody looking at the game can tell that this is an indie game, number one. And number two, at the end of the day, man, they're going to use early access as a shield. They do this all the time, and this is why most of the time, like 99% of the time, I am not going to support a indie game that's in early access. I'm just not, because it screams to me that they're trying to get whatever money they can to try to make up for the obvious losses that they're about to experience when people realize that the game is absolute trash. And if they can try to figure out a way to get some money while they can and strike while the iron's hot, then they will. You know, and again, look at these reviews. It's insane how many bad reviews are on this game right now. And granted, most of them came in the beginning, which means that these issues have been around since day one. People have been calling this out since day one. It's been getting review hit, and people are going to try to cope and see and be like, well, no, it's because of SBI's involvement as to why there is so many bad reviews. No, that's not the case at all, man. Gamers have spoken. People that were going to give this game a chance have spoken, and they realize the game's broken and it's the developer's fault, and they got to fix it. And look how silent it's been ever since. Barely anybody's playing this game. Barely anybody's reviewing this game. They're averaging the same amount of negative reviews as they are positive every single day that this game is talked about. That's insane. That is insane, man. So again, ladies and gentlemen, actually that's a little bit sus in my opinion, now that I realize that if they're averaging 5 positive and 5 negative, or 4 positive and 4 negative, that seems a little sus. It seems like every time they get a negative review, they try to counter it with a positive one. I don't know how they're pulling that off, but it just seems to be the case. And again, 1,061 negative reviews, 1,935 positive reviews, with an average of 63.28%. Now, you could try to blame SBI. You could try to say, oh, this is SBI's fault. Ultimately, I don't really think it's fully their fault. I think their company obviously had an influence in the reception and the perception, I should say, of this video game. I think if you don't realize that, you're insane. But I don't think that that is what's killing this game. And just like many of these woke-ass video games, or video games that may not be woke but utilize SBI, it doesn't matter, man. Like, these games are utilizing a company that is going to inherently cause divisive, reactions to your video game. And then on top of that too, with the people that did give you a chance, with the people that say, you know what, we're going to support you, give you our money, and we're going to give you a shot. We're going to give you a shot, even though we know that SBI is involved. We're going to give you a shot because maybe we liked your last game. Even those people get screwed, because it's not really about the wokeness that kills these video games. The wokeness just gets people to avoid the video game, right? But the wokeness is not what kills them. You know what kills them? The bad service, the bad customer service, the bad experience for the gamer. That is what kills these video games. And they continue to do this. They continue to give you broken products. They continue to give you shit, and they expect you to just eat it. And people have decided that they're not going to do that anymore. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.